Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today in this video I'm going to be talking about my personal opinion on keyboard and mouse versus controller, because I feel like it's a good topic to talk about, as there is a lot of people complaining about aim assist in Fortnite, and then controller players are getting angry with that and complaining keyboard and mouse players and stuff like this. So I want to talk about my views on it. This gameplay in the background isn't the best. This was just a couple of games I played while I played a couple of games, so I could just have a voiceover while this is playing in the background, so you're not just watching me play the whole time, and I can actually think about what I'm going to say instead of having to concentrate on the game. But in this video I'll be going over the pros and cons of being on controller and the pros and cons of being on keyboard and mouse. And at the end I will tell you guys what I think is better. I'm just saying this is my personal opinion. This is what I think of it. No one's going to be able to change my mind. You guys can have a debate about it in the comments with other people, but just no hatred or just no hate comments or anything. Because I don't want any of that. But this is just my personal opinion. So let's go on with it. First we're going to talk about the pros of being on controller, and then we'll talk about the keyboard and mouse. So when it comes to controller players, they can like, against keyboard and mouse players, it's a bit different, because keyboard and mouse players, they have a whole, wrist to aim with, and they have a lot more keys. Whether with the controller, it's a lot more compact, and it's like got a couple, I think about 15 buttons on it. Depends on what console you play on, I think it is. But for controller, they have aim assist, and as you all know, there's a massive debate about how OP aim assist is and stuff. Me and my friend have done a test where if you turn off, he turns off aim assist, and he sees how good his aim is. His aim wasn't very good, but this really does depend on how good your aim is just in general without aim assist. If you play games like Call of Duty or like Battlefield, just other games before Fortnite. But aim assist has a big effect on controller players. Yeah, it has a big effect on controller players. But moving on to the builds with controller. Personally, I think that controller is very easy to learn how to build, and then to get all the advanced builds, it's easier. It's not easy, but it's still a lot easier than keyboard and mouse would be, which I'll get onto when I talk about keyboard and mouse, obviously. Personally, I feel like controller is very good for advanced builds, learning how to build fast and stuff like that. I can't remember what I was going to say now. Yeah, let's talk about edits as well. When it comes to editing, it depends on really does depend on your sensitivity, and that is the same with your building. Your building really is more based around your sensitivity. So if you play on low sensitivity, on low build sensitivity, you're not going to be able to build as fast, but you might be able to do more advanced builds. But with fast sensitivity, you can probably build quite fast, and it would take a really long time to learn how to do advanced ones. But this is what I'm going off of, because I used to play on a higher sensitivity, and I was never really that good. I was pretty bad at the game on high sensitivity, and then I switched to low sensitivity because I play on. I don't really play controller much anymore. I play more keyboard and mouse. But no, I'm not gonna favorite keyboard and mouse, because just because I play on it more, I will give my fair opinion. But but I feel like editing and building on controller can be good, but it really does depend on your keybinds and your sensitivity. Like I said, I used to play on a high sensitivity. I was alright at editing, I was pretty good at building, and I switched to a low sensitivity, and I learned more advanced builds, and my building speed stayed about the same. My editing, I did get better, because before I would use, like, I think I used, like, circle for editing, but now I use, left stick, so, because left stick is very good for, like, for editing and stuff. But, like, yeah, sensitivity is a huge, like, it makes a huge difference, because obviously you can change your aiming sensitivity as well, but but having a low or high sensitivity affects it as well. So if you want to be able to aim good, a good, like, low normal sensitivity would be good if it was low. So say, like, yeah, it was like 5.5 or like 6.5 or something, and then you have your, like, or you have your normal, like, movement sensitivity a bit higher, so something like, lower, something like 5 or 6, and then you have your aiming sensitivity at something higher, or like, say you have your building high as well. I can't think what word I was gonna, like, I can't really word it properly. So basically, if you have your movement sensitivity at lower down, so like 6 or 5, and then you up your edit and your build sensitivity, if you up them, then it can give you better aim. But if you prefer playing on a higher sensitivity, then a lot of the time you'll have to rely on your builds, which can be annoying. But anyway, now we'll talk about the cons of being on controller. It's we'll start off with aim again. There isn't many cons to aim, more because controller players have aim assist, which helps them out a lot. But it's harder to aim on joysticks. I will say that it is a lot harder to aim on joysticks. So aim can be a bit different, but that's because the reason aim assist is even a thing is because it's, like I just said, it's harder to aim on the sticks, you know. So because it's harder to aim on sticks, aim assist is a thing to give controller players a little boost. But when it comes to controller players versus keyboard and mouse players, sometimes I feel like it's fair, sometimes I don't feel like it's fair. More because keyboard and mouse players, they have a full wrist, and they have a bunch of keys. And then controller players, but then they don't have aim assist. And it's quite easy to aim on a mouse, which is probably why controller players moan a lot. Keyboard and mouse players moan a lot, because controller players have that better aim, more because aim assist, basically. Moving on to, like, things like builds, with builds on controller, it's like, I feel like it's a lot harder to mess up with your builds on controller. So say you're an advanced builder, you can do all the good pro building techniques and stuff. You won't be able to be as fast as keyboard and mouse players, purely because the sticks, you can't move as fast unless you've got, like, super high sensitivity, your dead zone super high, Although I don't know what's better. I think yeah, low dead zone. Then that's what it really depends on. Like, controller was well, it had always been my favourite. And then when I started switching to, and then I noticed I wasn't really getting it any better, and I was just sitting there wondering what I could do to get better. And I didn't know if it was my sensitivity or not, because my sensitivity is very low. And I decided to switch to keyboard and mouse, and since then, my edits and my builds have been really good. They've been pretty good compared to what I was on controller, which is why I think controller can in some ways be harder to build on, but you can definitely do advanced builds easier on controller. But that's actually no, actually I'd say advanced builds are probably harder on controller, but if you have higher sensitivity, you can easily build fast and not mess up, because it's like you have the joysticks, which are in some ways easier to control. Moving on to edits on controller, the cons of editing is there isn't really cons for editing and stuff. Yeah, there isn't really many cons for editing and stuff. As editing's pretty like balanced on both, really. Although we can all say that keyboard and mouse players can definitely edit better than controller players. Like, that's a definite yes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can talk about with controller, really. Reaction time is definitely another thing. It's definitely a lot harder to react on controller, as it's such a small little thing that you can easily get your buttons mixed up. Like, because the controllers are so small, and you're mainly going to be looking at the game, you can easily mess up just by pressing the wrong button a couple of times, But with keyboard and mouse, because there's so many buttons, but it's easier to like master them and map them in your head. It's like you won't mess up as much. But this is what I feel like personally, because I know I used to mess up a lot on controller, or mess up on stupid things, and on keyboard and mouse I've managed to get over those things. Like, I've managed to get better at like controlling those things and not messing up at those parts. But I think it's now time to talk about keyboard and mouse. We'll start with the pros again. Now, the first pro when it comes to aiming is that we have a full wrist, so we can keep moving it along. So like, if we're trying to follow someone with our aim, we can just keep moving the mouse sort of like along at a slow pace. Well, with controller, it's a lot harder to like push the joystick in a little bit because you might sometimes you accidentally push it all the way, or and it also depends on your dead zone. But yeah, again, we don't have aim assist, so any controller players against keyboard and mouse players, most of the time controller players would win, mainly because of how good their aim is. But at the same time, keyboard and mouse players can always, or most of the time, outbuild and edit controller players, which also puts controller players off. And then they can get a nice shot on them or whatever. But it's the same. It's like with keyboard and mouse players, we can hit flick shots as well. With controller, you can't hit flick shots properly unless you have super high sensitivity, which is probably to a lot of people is quite hard to play on. But on with the building, I personally think that building on keyboard and mouse is a lot easier. I feel like building on keyboard and mouse is easier. So by that you can edit faster. No, build. I feel like keyboard and mouse players can build faster, and they can master simple builds easy. So simple builds like 90s, wall, ramp, floor, stuff like those are quite easy to master because these are like the simple ones. Are easier to master on keyboard and mouse. Where with the harder builds, it's definitely harder to master them. So if you say like you're doing the edit or the trick where you build up a couple ramps, you build a floor, a cone, you edit out the 2 bits on the right, so the 2 edit bits on the right of both the cone and the stair. You place a floor just above where it's just hard to explain. You might have seen me do it in a couple of videos before, I'm not sure, but more advanced edit builds is harder on keyboard and mouse, as you've got to try and like your mouse, using your mouse can sometimes fuck you up because you can spin it too hard and it just knocks you in the like complete opposite position, and it just completely stops you from being able to do what you want to do, and you just fall off your ramps and stuff. Which is why personally I think keyboard and mouse is also 50-50 for builds. It's easier than controller, but then it can be harder. Controller is also 50-50. I feel like it can be I feel like controller can be like, yeah, controller's like 50-50. Controller players can be better at building than keyboard and mouse players, and they can be worse. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, controller is beating keyboard and mouse players by aim. So that controller's on 1 point, keyboard and mouse is on 0. From what I'm talking about, builds is, I'd say it's probably a 1. It's probably 1-1. Then they both got a point, so it's like 2 to controller, 1 to keyboard and mouse players, and then edit is definitely keyboard and mouse. So that's another point. That's another score for keyboard and mouse players. So it's tying right now. It's 2 to controller, 2 to keyboard and mouse. With the reaction times, I will be talking about that after I talk about edits about keyboard and mouse. Obviously, as I just said, edits is definitely better on keyboard and mouse. You can do it as fast as you want because you can go like this with the mouse, and you can just, go like that. You can just flick it, and it's not that hard, especially if you have edit hold to release, or something like that. Edit to release hold. I'm so stupid. Whatever it is, where you edit and then you don't have to press the same edit button afterwards, and it will just edit it for you. That is really good for keyboard and mouse players. Sorry about that. Yeah, editing is. It also depends on your edit sensitivity on keyboard and mouse as well. So, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. Like low sensitivity or high sensitivity, you can still edit fast because keyboard and mouse is made for like editing and stuff, pretty much. There's not much we need to talk about anymore about editing. Next, we'll move on to the cons of playing keyboard and mouse. First, we've got aim. Now, the aim can be hard to learn as we don't have any assistance, and we've got to, learn it from scratch. Keyboard and mouse players have to learn it from scratch, and they have to try and figure the best ways to get better aim. Which is one of the things I found the hardest when I started keyboard and mouse, and now that my aim is better, I'm finding that builds is also a weakness. But I definitely need to get better aim, and I feel like definitely editing a bit aim is definitely harder to learn. It's 1,000 times harder to learn than it is for controller. But if you can master your aim can be godly. Like, it can be better than controller players. But if you're playing on controller and you also manage to master your aim, so you've got your aim assist, but you can also manage to track players, you know, like when they're gliding in, you like your controller, your crosshairs like constantly aiming onto them. If you can do that, you can have like the best aim in the game. Like, your aim can be so much better than so many other people's, which is also another reason why, well, when it comes to aim for controller players, and how much harder it is to aim for both ones. Obviously, it's harder to aim on keyboard and mouse, but I feel like it's definitely easier to learn your aim on controller due to aim assist, because aim assist just gives you that boost, and then you could get your aim better. You can get your aim better. So obviously, talking about the we'll move on to talking about editing a bit more. There's not much to really say about editing. Keyboard and mouse beats controller players for editing literally any day of the week. Like, keyboard and mouse players they have a full, like, massive area to aim with on their desk. They can they can just edit so many different things. So editing is definitely better on keyboard and mouse. Like, that's obvious. But controller players can still edit fast, but not as fast as keyboard and mouse players, and that's obvious. There's not much we really even need to say about that. You can literally, there's not much you need to even like say about that. Keyboard and mouse players win in editing every day. So at the moment it's 2 to controller players, 2 to keyboard and mouse players. I'll just go over what we've talked about. So keyboard and controller players win on aim, and they win on, what else was it? Controller players definitely, actually, yeah. Wait, no. Controller players win on aim. It's a draw on build, so it's 1 to keyboard and mouse players, 2 to controller players, and then to finish that off, keyboard and mouse players win on editing, so it's 2 to controller, keyboard and mouse, which means it's a draw. So we'll talk about how fast both platforms can react. When it comes to keyboard and mouse players reacting, like I said, they've got the mouse and they've got a full area to move in, but when it comes to controllers, it's kind of hard for controller players to press circle to get their builds out, obviously, press their build buttons, and then aim at the same time, unless you play on like claw or something. Then you can do it. But for people that play on like a normal grip, you can't build, aim your cursor around and everything to build where you want to build, and build at the same time, which is why reacting time is hard. But then with keyboard and mouse, it's harder. It's easier to mess up, because if you move your mouse too quickly or fast, you can build in the wrong place, or you can do the wrong thing, because there's so many different keys. You might accidentally place the wrong one, or just, it depends on what you have your build binds as. And with the mouse, obviously, you could swipe it too far across your desk, and it could like mess up your thing or something. As in, like, you could not build in the right place you want to build, which is, yet again, I feel like personally, that is a draw between both of them. So keyboard and mouse, 3 controller players, 3 points. Next, we'll talk about well, for the next couple minutes, I'll probably just talk about like controller players going up against keyboard and mouse players. Controller players are when it comes to controller players versus keyboard and mouse players, the keyboard and mouse players can a lot of the time outbuild the controller players, but these controller players can out-aim us, and keyboard and mouse players, and keyboard and mouse players can out-edit them. The build is kind of the same, but we can out-edit them, so if we steal one of their walls, which keyboard and mouse players can do easier, by the way, than controller players, but that's a different topic going on to that. If keyboard and mouse player steals a controller player's wall, they can easily edit that wall, but because these reactions, because of how bad, but like how hard it can be for their reacting time to kick in, or for them to actually be able to react properly, it can get them killed a lot. We'll talk about how sometimes you have in tournaments, like platform cash cups, or whatever they're called. Say someone readies up with a controller and they use keyboard and mouse in that tournament. That, in my book, what am I saying? In my opinion, that's technically cheating. It shouldn't be a bannable offense, but it's definitely cheating, and you shouldn't get money if that's what happens. Like, if you get first place, you shouldn't get money for it if you're using keyboard and mouse and controller on a PlayStation or an Xbox. But that's my personal opinion. But then again, keyboard and mouse in tournaments, keyboard and mouse players, they're already up on keyboard and mouse, or controller players are already up on keyboard and mouse, and then they'll switch to controller, which is also quite unfair for all the pro controller players, or pro keyboard and mouse players, because it can ruin their experience. Because if say the controller player gets like a minigun or something, and the keyboard and mouse player is like in once, the controller player can just beam, and because of their aim assist, and it can easily affect keyboard and mouse players' gaming or Fortnite tournament experience. So for that, it is like kind of the same when it comes to tournaments. Both people will do it. Like, both keyboard and mouse players already up and use controllers. People already up on controller and use keyboard and mouse. It's like the same. They'll do it, but I think it can be unfair. Arena, it doesn't matter what you're ready up on, because you'll get put on anyone anyway. So like, you'll get put on keyboard and mouse players, controller players. That doesn't matter. But for keyboard and mouse players, I personally think that they should make it so controller players can't play. Like, they can't use their controller in the game if they've already readied up on keyboard and mouse, or they can't ready up on keyboard and on controller. So let's say like a PC player there's like a PC a tournament for like people. Alright, let me just put it this way: people on computer should be able to, if they do a tournament, they should be able to ready up, but they shouldn't be able to switch to controller. Like, that should not be allowed, and it shouldn't let them. It should like make them. It should not let the input like work, and it should just make them use keyboard and mouse. And that should be the same for controller. Keyboard and mouse players should not use keyboard and mouse if it's a console platform cup, or a PlayStation platform cup, Xbox, whatever. It should not. That should not be a thing. But yeah, this video was my views about keyboard and mouse versus controller. For Fortnite. This is all for Fortnite. I'm just saying. I'm not going to be doing any of this about any other games because there's not many other games that have debates about what's better, keyboard and mouse controller, blah blah blah. Keyboard and mouse is better for a lot of other games, but Fortnite it can be the same as they have aim assist and other stuff, and the way Fortnite works. I might do an Xbox versus PS4 video next. I don't want to really get any hate for it. So if it does start getting hate or something, we'll probably just take the video down because it will be my opinion, personally. But anyway, about the winner of what is better, keyboard and mouse versus controller. The winner is no one. I personally think that they are both the same. They're both equal. They both have their better things on both ones. They both have their bad things that they have, their bad things that they do. But yeah, I personally think I hope I haven't wasted everyone's time. But I just personally think that they are a little bit the same. You know, they have their similarities, they have their differences. They can be used both in certain ways, you know. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Please don't give me any hate. Put in the comments down below what you want me to do. If you want me to do Xbox versus PS4 or console versus PC. It's up to you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.